So this is what you do the first time we're back together as a family, Vampire Book Club.
Warning, this podcast, Vampire Book Club, will contain spoilers from the Vampire Diaries, the originals, and legacies. Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Mikaela. This is a Vampire Diaries universe podcast, Vampire Book Club. Please expect spoilers in every single episode that I produce. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my favorite episode of the Vampire Diaries, possibly even my favorite episode in the entire universe, Dangerous Liasons, Season 3, Episode 14, also known as the Mikaelson Ball. In this episode, a lot of things really happen. We're unpacking a lot of things here. There is love triangles, love, romance, sex, lies, trickery, deception. From all across the board, there's just a bunch of different things going on. It's really got all the feels, and I love that. So in the previous episode, Alaric got attacked. He's in the hospital in the beginning of this episode. There has been other attacks in the town, including Caroline Forbes' father and other members of the founding council. Elena had to kill him because she was the doppelganger, and that makes her technically supernatural. That way he would come back to life because they did not know what had happened to him. We also know that Bonnie has just met her mother and has a new family to deal with, and she's going through a lot, but Elena has checked in with her and she seems to be doing okay. But Bonnie is not in this episode, and neither is Alaric. I'm more mad about Bonnie not being in this episode. I'm pretty upset that Bonnie is not in this episode at all. She is listed as being in it. I'm more upset about her not being in it for multiple reasons. It's probably not what you're thinking. Well, it's a little bit what you're thinking, but there are other reasons too, most likely. I'll talk about them in a little bit. It said that he is staying there overnight for further observation. While they're in the hospital, somebody is watching them, like as they walk through the hallway. They go out into the parking lot. Matt leaves. Elena's backing up out of her car, and bam! Rebecca appears out of nowhere, attacking her, and Elijah ends up saving her. So in the episode where they are planning to kill Klaus originally and bring in Michael, Elena pretends to befriend her and daggers her, and she's really upset about this, so she's trying to get revenge. Elijah swoops in and saves her. Elijah explains to Elena that Esther is what was in the coffin and that she wants to live peacefully with her family. Elijah is pretty skeptical of this overall, but he assures Elena that they won't be any harm to her or to anyone. They just want to live happily and peacefully. However, Elijah does not believe his mother has forgiven Klaus and that she doesn't have other intentions. The next morning, as Elena is sharing this information with Stefan and Damon, a knock arrives on their door, inviting her to the Mikaelson Ball. It cracks me up because Stefan's like, who the hell are the Mikaelsons? It's funny because in an interview with Paul Wesley and Joseph Morgan, he's trying to say who the other siblings are, and he can only remember either Elijah or Rebecca. He barely remembers both of them, and he doesn't even know there are any more siblings. And he was shocked about one of them. I forget which one, but it's just funny that was his line, and he still hasn't figured it out. And we see Rebecca come in, and Cole, who we have not met before until the previous episode, but we really didn't get to see much of him or Finn. Cole is like, Rebecca, she's getting her nails painted and by some man, and they're all getting like fitted for outfits. Cole is just like, Rebecca, tell me how handsome I look. And she's like, oh, Cole, you know I can't be compelled. And the other brother, Finn, kind of laughs a little bit. And then Klaus comes in, Rebecca, like, how could you kill Elena? Do I have to dagger you already? And then Cole makes a joke about like, oh, it's always daggers with you. And him and Cole almost fight. And then Esther, the mother, comes in and is like, Niklaus, and takes him into another room and starts talking to him. She's like, do you know why I brought you here? And he's like, to kill me. She's like, no, to forgive you. I've wanted my family back for 1,000 years. I want to live in peace. It's going to take time for them to forgive you. You can't go around having them kiss your feet. Like, I don't know. Basically telling them he's daggered them. He's been rude to them. He deserves the way that they're treating them. And you need to give them time for them to come around. They will. Yada, yada, yada. She tells him that forgiveness is not a chore. It is actually a gift. And I kind of agree with that for everybody involved. She also asks him, who is he bringing to the ball? He says, nobody. Don't be ridiculous. You're lucky I'm even coming. She's like, well, I think you should bring somebody. It's going to be a magical evening. And she definitely says that because it's going to be magical. She plans on doing a spell. That was a little that was definitely foreshadowing what's coming up in this episode. So Esther sent Elena an invitation. I don't know if I mentioned that. And she just says, I think it's time we finally meet. Esther. Damon and Stefan. Well, Damon doesn't want her to go. Stefan says, I think that's the only way we're going to find out if she can help us kill him or not. And Damon says something. I miss the old Stefan when you used to care about whether or not Elena lived or died. And Stefan says something that's so messed up in front of Elena, like, oh, that's your job now. Like, what? Like, acting like he doesn't care. Elena agrees that she's not going to go. And then we see Klaroline at her home listening to a voicemail from Tyler saying that she's going to continue to break his sire bond from Klaus, like her father was trying to help him do. Her father just died in the last episode because he was also one of the people attacked. He happened to have vampire blood in his system, though. He was one of the people attacked like Alaric, though he came back as a vampire but chose to die because he just does not believe in cheating death. Tyler basically says he's sorry he can't come home and he won't be back for a while. And while she's listening to this voicemail, somebody knocks on her door. She goes to open it and she looks down. There is a box and an envelope on her doorstep. And honestly, I love it so much. I am a Klaroline shipper, but I don't hate you if you're not. There are a lot of things that are brought up again also from this episode, just proving how iconic this episode really is. This dress is brought up in Legacies. It is actually shown in Legacies. There is a memory that Klaus brings up to Klaroline as well that is mentioned in the originals. Just like a lot of things come from this episode, and I really enjoy that. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself right now, so let's get back to the show, or this episode, I should say. So Klaroline reads the letter, and it says, "Save me a dance, fondly, Klaus." And she's like, seriously? And then her and Elena are like at the Mystic Grill. And it's so funny because she tries to deny how she feels about this. And she's just like, can you believe they're having a real ball? Elena's saying. And she's just like, yeah, it's like some Cinderella fetish. It's so funny because the dress that he gives her is blue. And that he's giving her a dress. It's just hilarious. And he already gave her a bracelet when he saved her life on her birthday after putting her life in danger. But yeah, so she's sitting there trying to deny her feelings. And then Rebecca walks in. Careful, Klaroline. She might stab you in the back. And she's like, I thought your mom told you couldn't hurt anybody. And Rebecca's like, not everything's about you, Elena. And Rebecca walks up to Matt and invites him to the ball. And Caroline's like, is she seriously inviting him? Why is she doing that? And Elena's like, probably to get this reaction out of us. Elena really does have a gift. I can't. Guys, is it even a little bit possible that she might actually like Matt? I know, most people don't. I get it. But Elena, you did. Like, couldn't she just like somebody? Couldn't she just have feelings? Isn't it okay for Rebecca to want to feel loved too? Okay? I know she comes up as a mean girl, but that's really what it is for her. Then we see cars pulling up to the mansion that the ball is being held at, Klaus's mansion or whatever. And Damon starts talking to Carol Lockwood. Oh, having fun with your new besties? And she's like, I'm the mayor, Damon. When the oldest, deadliest family of vampires moves into your town, you welcome them with a smile. And then Cole walks over and introduces himself to Mayor Lockwood and says we haven't formally introduced. Then Damon goes to introduce himself. And he's just like, have we met? He's like, and Cole's like, I've met a lot of people and you don't particularly stand out. So this might make sense. Like they were going to have like a backstory with Cole and Damon. And I really think that they should have, first of all. I at first thought that they did this little thing just to kind of start beef between them. As you see towards the end of the episode. But there was going to be an episode where they had a backstory like Stefan, Rebecca, and Klaus do. But in the 1920s, Damon was also hanging around Chicago and was able to stay away from Chicago. So it never really made sense to me why he didn't know the originals. Because we see Stefan get compelled, and that's why he forgot about Klaus and Rebecca. But we don't see what happens with Damon. And I really think they were going to do something like that where Cole compelled Damon to forget. And I think that's why Cole is like always picking on Damon too, because they were going to have a backstory. Like when he hits him with the baseball bat in Denver. But they decided to take it out because they were going to use him as an example for, the Klaroline thing. The originals really do play a huge role in all of the vampire lore. Obviously, they started the whole line, but you don't realize how connected they are at this point. And this is just one more storyline that they add in that makes it really awesome. But anyways, Cole is talking to May Lockwood and says, you don't particularly stand out to Damon. And then Damon looks over and Elena is walking in. And he's like, excuse me, Carol, and walks away and obviously goes to Elena. Sees Stefan also there. And the three of them kind of walking together. And Damon's just like, surprise, surprise, nice tux. Like, what are you doing here? They're both saying. Then back at Caroline's house, she is rummaging through her closet, trying to find something to wear, pretending she's going to wear anything but that dress. Girl, you are in denial. But anyways, she puts on the dress and the necklace or bracelet, whatever it is, and heads to the Mikaelson ball. Klaus is talking to a woman, laughing, and as she walks in, he looks over and is like the same way that Damon looks at Elena. He's just like stops in the middle of his tracks and is like, oh, hot damn. And he's also flattered that she's actually wearing the dress that he picked out for her. And he starts to walk over to her. He's just like, good evening. And she's like, I need a drink, and walks away. And then we see Finn talking to Elena. He basically says, if you're going to meet with my mother, you have to ditch your friends because, they weren't invited. She tells Finn that they're just protecting her because, his mother's already tried to kill her. So he pretty much sums it up with, if you want to see my mother, you got to be alone. And then Elijah makes an announcement and says that they're going to start the night off with a dance. That's how they usually do it. Tonight's dance is a centuries-old waltz. And Damon and Stefan see Esther while Elijah is giving this announcement. And then as the announcement's done, Elena is about to go up the stairs and Damon kind of stops her. He's like, don't even think about it. She was like, I was invited. He's like, was I not clear this morning? And Damon gets like really protective and he just goes too far. He's like, in this evening, he's just like, you have to tell me before you walk into the lion's den. And she's like, why? So you can stop me? No, thank you. And Damon tells her it would be rude not to dance, And she's like, it is tradition. Honestly, all of these scenes in this dance are my favorite. And Stefan is jealously watching them dance. Every time that I watch this episode, I'm always just like, when they're doing that like lineup, I'm just like, who is Cole dancing with? And Elijah. I noticed that doesn't look like Davina or Haley. Just saying. No, I'm just kidding. Not that you actually see the face of the woman that Elijah's dancing with really anyways. But yeah. Then my two favorites were dancing together. Klaroline and Klaus. He's like, I'm glad you came. And she's like, yeah, well, it was either caviar or sympathy casseroles. He's like, well, I heard about your father. She's like, don't. Seriously? And then he says, on to more mannered subjects then, like how ravishing you look in that dress. She tries so hard to deny her feelings or her attraction to him because she knows that it's morally wrong, but she can't help herself because, it's not a crime to love what you can not explain. So she tries to make up excuses about why she's wearing the dress. Oh, I didn't have time to shop. And he's like, well, what about the bracelet? And then he calls her an excellent dancer. And she's like, well, I've had training. I happen to be Miss Mystic Falls. And just the way that he's like, I know. It gets me every time because like he really is the only character, male character especially, that really knows Klaroline. Before even knowing Klaroline, he sees the good in her just like she sees the good in him. He sees the stronger qualities where everybody else doubts her and calls her insecure and shallow and all these other things. And Klaus never does that. He sees how strong she is. He knows who she is really before she even knows who she is. He sees all the potential that she has. And I love that for her. And we see Matt and Rebecca dancing, but I don't know if they really get much of a scene. Yeah, definitely no words are spoken on the dance floor between the two of them. And they really get to play into this love triangle here with Elena, Stefan, and Damon. And they do. We get a twirl. Damon spins her, and boom, she is now in Stefan's arms. Although Ripper Stefan is still in denial land, or he hasn't fully come out to be himself, he is definitely happy to be with her in this moment. And she definitely is too. She's like, ooh, he dances and I didn't even have to beg. And then he says, like, Mayor Lockwood dragged me out here, couldn't say no. So now Caroline and Matt are dancing, and Rebecca and Damon are dancing. Caroline asks Matt, like, what the hell are you doing here with the she-devil? Matt's like, what was I gonna do, say no? Why the hell are you here with Klaus? She's like, don't even get me started. She doesn't even have the answer. She doesn't want to be there with him, but she can't fight her attraction. Let's be real. And then you see a little more Stefan and Elena, and Stefan says something about Damon look like in a mood, and Elena's just like, well, he's looking out for me. And Stefan, this part I love. To be clear, I am a Delena shipper, but there are some Stefan and Elena moments that I really love and enjoy. And this is definitely one of them where she's like, he's just looking out for me. And she's like, I think he needs to figure out that you can look out for yourself. And then you can see Elena's little gears turn in her head. She's like, I need to talk to you, but outside, let's go. And so she kind of takes him outside. And you see Rebecca dancing with Damon. And Damon's just like, stop staring. It's creepy. And Rebecca's jealous that Caroline's dancing with Matt and is like, of course she looks beautiful. Nick gave her everything she's wearing. I find it interesting that Rebecca and Cole call him Nick, but Elijah calls him Niklaus, and so does Finn. I wonder if it's because they're his younger siblings and they couldn't really pronounce it all the way, or if it's for some other reason. I don't know. Interesting. So while Rebecca is calling Caroline beautiful because everything she's wearing her brother gave her, Damon's like, well, you're no dog yourself. She's like, is that supposed to be a compliment? You tried to kill Elena last night. You don't get compliments. She calls him a caveman. They have like this flirty thing going on. Definitely some tension building up. They've had this for quite some time, honestly. And then we have another Stelena moment, and I really like this too. They kind of team up to take out Damon to get him out of the plan. Basically, Damon won't let him out of her sight without protection. And she says, you care about Klaus more than killing anything. And Stefan's like, oh, shit. She's like, what? Am I wrong? He's like, no, you're not wrong. And I think he feels guilty in this moment. He's like, I shouldn't care about this as much as I care about you but I do. So they make a little plan, and Stefan's just like, are you sure you can do this? She's like, yeah, I can do this. Elena's like, when we were together, you used to let me make my own decisions. You trusted me. I'm glad that didn't change. And I really like that. And honestly, I really like that he still respects her choices because he always does. However, that's why I really don't like Caroline, because he doesn't seem to respect her choices as much. And Caroline even says that to him at some point, but that has nothing to do with this episode. Then Cole and Bex are talking to each other, and Cole's just like, where's your date? And he's like, it's a sign of weakness. Dating humans is the first sign of weakness. And she's like, I'm not going to date him. I'm going to kill him. I brought him here to get revenge. That's Elena's friend. And she might have actually went through with it if they didn't go outside. But really, I don't think that was ever her intention at all. I think Cole is just devious and maniacal. Someone to join in on his reindeer games or vampire games. She's like, I brought him here to kill him. And they make a plan to like get him outside, and they'll do it out there. And then Damon walks in and was like, got your text. What are we doing here? And to Elena, and Stefan just runs up and snaps his neck. I mean, pretty crazy. Like, they are Damon in this situation. Stefan is so consumed with getting even with Klaus that he wants him gone. And honestly, he had so many chances in this episode to like just get back with Elena, or like even admit how he felt about Elena. And he was just nasty and rotten the entire time. And I get it, but like, I really don't. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a Rippa and to have my humanity off, but like, it's back on, bro. Just feel it. You don't want to have too much pain? Too friggin' bad. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Just feel it. And then don't cry that you lost Elena because you couldn't like just own it. But we won't talk about that. Or we might. I don't know. So Stefan tells her, hurry up. He won't be out long. And then Elijah walks up to Elena and she's like, I understand. Like, he's like, well, what do you think my mom wants? Like, I don't think she has the ability to forgive my brother after everything he's done to destroy his family. Like, I think it's an act. And Elijah wants the details from Elena. And she says, okay. So Finn lets Elena in to see Esther. And she's in there alone. And I think that Elena's a little nervous to walk in. And Esther is holding sage. She says, it's only sage. Like, I'm spelling it so we can speak freely. So nobody can hear us outside, which is sketchy and probably would have bugged me out a lot if I was Elena. But we know Elena is a martyr and just loves putting herself in danger, whether she needs to or not. In this case, I do agree that she needed to if they were going to take down Klaus, but you can't take down Klaus. Klaus only leaves if he wants to be taken down. So this is where Esther tells her that she says she loves her family, but they're abominations and they should not have been allowed to be alive for this long. And this is the first time that we see Esther try to take her children out. The first of many over both the originals and the Vampire Diaries. So Elena asked her if she was a ghost. She was like, no, my body was preserved with a sleeping spell, which is weird because it's very similar to what Freya and Dahlia do. So Esther's plan requires Elena. It also requires the Bennett bloodline. So Bonnie was not even invited to this event. And that really bothers me on so many levels. And honestly, it probably is a race thing as well. Just like excluding people down south. I don't know. It definitely, she dealt with racism a lot. But the fact, just in the storyline in general, the fact that she was literally like the biggest part of the plan. Like, they need her to go through with this, and her mother. Like, why was she not even invited? You know? And I understand that Esther goes to see her on her own, but she should have been at this ball, and it bothers me. I'm not even a huge Bonnie fan, and I don't I like Bonnie, don't get me wrong, but she's not one of my top 5. And she did deserve much better, and just her not being at this ball just really bothers me. She is mentioned a bunch though, but it's she should have been here. So there definitely is a way for her to undo the evil that she's created, and she feels guilty about it, but she's going to do it because she just made a mistake when she made them become vampires. She created a plague that infected the world for a millennia and continues to affect the world. But I also think that she must have known that what was going to happen with the sire lines. She must have known that all of the vampires were going to be erased, and that would have sucked. So glad that didn't happen. Would have been out of a show or 3. So basically, she tells Elena that she needed to use her blood because in the original spell, she used Tatia's blood, who was probably the first doppelganger, or at least the first one that she had come across. Not sure how she knew about the doppelgangers, but she knew. She's Esther. She has lots of tricks up her sleeve, up her evil little sleeve. Elena's like, you're going to help us kill Klaus, aren't you? We're going to get rid of him, aren't we? She's like, one thing at a time, Elena. Right now, I just simply need your help. I am trying to stay in order here, so I'm not going to finish talking about something until it has happened. I'm trying to go in order in the way that the episode did. I might skip a little bit here and there. But after Esther and Elena are done talking or whatever, they skip to Klaroline standing outside, and Klaus walks up. You like horses? And I absolutely lose my shit every time I see it because I love them. Klaroline is trying to mask the feelings that she has for him and kind of just uses hate. She's like, I'm not talking to you until you tell me why you invited me here. Maybe he's going to use her for his evil plan to get rid of Esther. Who knows? Klaus doesn't need anybody for his evil plans. He kind of just does that all on his own. And I'm really always going to be hurt that they didn't make them endgame. But I am happy with the original season 5. He's like, I fancy you. Is that so hard to believe? And she's like, yes. Honestly, I don't really know where this came from because they only had they had 2 meetings, but one of them was really only where he decided that he was going to save her life on her birthday. And then he was just all of a sudden into her. But like, I don't really know where that attraction comes from other than the fact that she's blonde like Esther. And that's all I can think. He has mommy issues. So maybe that's it. Or maybe he just, I don't know. I don't know. And I can't put my finger on it, but I don't care, to be honest. Or he really is just good at knowing people and knowing who she is. Like, he knows more about her than any other character in the show, and sometimes including herself. And she needed somebody to like boost her up. She was so insecure in the first season, and I know when she became a vampire, she became stronger, but people still didn't always see that. And he sees it right off the grip, and I love it. But anyways, he's like, so why is that so hard to believe? Or whatever. And he's like, you're beautiful, you're strong, you're full of light, and I enjoy you. She's like, well, I'm spoken for by Tyler. And he's like, but I thought you guys ended things. And she's like, yeah, because of you and your freaky sire bond with him. So you aren't spoken for. In every little event they attend, he's telling her some story about an animal. It seems to be a pattern. Then he starts talking about how horses are loyal and they're not like people. He says how his father hunted him for 1,000 years and the closest he's ever came was the day he killed his favorite horse. He severed his neck without a warning. And then I really enjoy that because when you hear there is a flashback in the originals where Cole is like, oh no, they got Apollio or Apothio or whatever the horse's name is. I really liked him. And they're trying to leave town. And it's like, I think the 1700s. And it's just brought up again. And I love when they do stuff like that. Originals did explain a lot of the things that were mentioned here, or at least clear it up all the way in a lot of cases. And I really enjoy that. Not that you needed any backstory with that, but I like that they just kind of added on to it. It was cool to see that they fled because of the horse, and that's when Cole got daggered one time out of many, many. And then Klaroline, because she just went through something traumatic with her father, and she's just like, well, did you ever think to talk to your dad? And he's just like, my relationship with my father is a bit more complex than yours with your father. Maybe so, but I let my father go with no regrets. And I'm glad. She deserved that, honestly. I know that must have been hard. Obviously, losing a father is hard, even though he tortured her. I mean, I think that that was what he knew. I don't really think he's a bad guy, honestly. He tries to redeem his mistakes with Tyler, and he says that, like, I know what it's like to make a mistake, so that's why I'm here. And then she says, yes, to answer your question. I do like horses, but I also like people and they like me, and says, and just walks away. I love how she's so hostile to him. She tries so hard not to like enjoy him, but she can't help it. I know she can't. And then they kind of cut back to Esther, and you're just like, okay, what's this bitch planning? And she's like, gonna use the doppelganger blood. She just needs a little bit. She says that she's gonna put into the toast tonight, so all of her children are linked. They will all be as one. And Bonnie Bennett and her mother are going to help. They're going to draw from the Bennett line, and Finn is going to be able to kill himself with some type of ritual that they're doing. I don't really know what they were doing, to be honest. But yeah, as we know, that fails. She says that her kids believe her about the ball, even though Elijah's the most suspicious, but Elena gives her blood. So basically, Cole and Rebecca are talking again, and he's like, I'm itching to kill something. What are we waiting for? And then Rebecca's like, the mayor cornered me. Give me 15 minutes to lure him out outside. He's like, well, outside? What's wrong with right here? She's like, you sound like an idiot, Cole. Your mother would kill us. And this really shows how much Rebecca like wants to respect her mother and wanted a mother and needs her mother. You see that so much that Rebecca really suffered the most from the loss of her mother. And as a girl, that really makes sense to me. I'm sure they all wanted their mom at times, but Rebecca definitely seemed to miss her the most, and she was the baby as well. Other than Henrique, who is the only person to stay dead in the TVDU. And then we kind of see Damon waking up, and he's like, Stefan's like, easy buddy, we don't want you to do anything stupid. And this is like, I really enjoy this because you see Damon changing like the way that he would go about things to save Elena. And it's funny that he kind of like gets in the way of the plan, and both Elena and Stefan say this to him at some point, and he really doesn't take it the right way. He's just like, where's Elena? Exactly where she belongs, talking to Esther. What did you do? What did you do? He's like, don't blame me. This is her. Right down to the broken neck, bro. He's like, maybe you should just stop being so controlling. Damon is like, oh shit, I'm the problem here. Like he starts like freaking out about this. And yeah, he's like, you're a liability. He's like, I'm trying to keep her alive. And they both are like, yeah, your emotions are getting in the way of our plan. My emotions? How is this even happening right now? I love it so much. Basically, he's like, well, I think you just care too damn much. And Damon doesn't really like to admit that he cares about things except for Elena and Damon. But even then, he's very witty and makes jokes about it. And, he's just Damon. He's got to be a Gemini. And no offense to Geminis, I am one myself. So now we see Matt and Rebecca walking outside to the car. And so what are we doing out here? Matt's like, and she's like, oh, I just wanted to take a break from all the chit chat and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, it's freezing. Let me get my coat. And he walks over to the car and she's like, this is your car. And she's like literally about to insult it. She's like, oh, that's like, you can tell she's judging him right away. So we see Matt grab the coat and then he goes to put it on Rebecca. And she's like, oh, I'm a vampire. We don't. And then she just takes it on. She's like, you know what? Let's go back in. I think I got all the fresh air that I need. I really wish there were other incidences that we see because vampires wear coats. So like if they don't get cold, then why are they always wearing coats? To fit in? But like, I don't think that's it. I wish they like did more with that. I don't really know what, but it would have been cool, I guess. So she realized that he was doing something nice for her and she did not want to hurt him. She didn't in the first place, but I think she was feeling a little jealous and a little intimidated by Cole. There was a lot of peer pressure on her. I mean, and she is a vampire. It's in her nature. So they head back into the party and Elijah walks up to Elena. So how was my mother? And she was like, intense. He's like, well, should I be concerned about her intentions or... And they're starting the champagne toast. They're passing it out during this conversation. She just wanted to apologize for having me killed, Elena says. And you can see the guilt on her face. She looks guilty. She feels bad for lying to him. I know she does. She's a Elena. So she's forgiving Klaus. It's true then. She's forgiven him. And Elena's just like, yes. And then they take all the Mikaelsons. We see them all drink the glass with Elena's blood in it. I'm surprised they don't smell it. I know it was just like a drop, but I'm surprised they don't smell it. All right. I guess maybe that's a little much. I don't know. But they're vampires. Everything's heightened. So Klaus and Caroline walk into a room filled with paintings. And Caroline's like, so what did you want to show me? And he's just like, one of my passions. Ooh, impressive. I take it the curators at the Louvre aren't on Barbane. Well, that's their problem. And then she's like, what about these? Where'd you steal this from? And she's holding up her bracelet. And he's like, oh, well, that was worn by a princess almost as beautiful as you. And Caroline kind of just rolls her eyes at him. And he kind of like looks embarrassed that she's not like buying into his bullshit. Not embarrassed, but like hurt. Probably slightly embarrassed too. And then Caroline sees a drawing that she's really actually impressed with. And she's like, did you do these? And he's like, yeah. Actually, one of my landscapes is hanging at the Hermitage. Not that anyone would notice. Have you been? She's like, nah, I've never been anywhere. He's like, I'll take you wherever you want. Rome, Paris, Tokyo. And she's just like, oh, wow. And they both kind of laugh a little bit, but like Caroline feels some other type of way, I think. First of all, she's a vampire now and she could totally do any of this stuff herself. And he mostly, even if he's just compelling somebody to like go places, I don't really see like they're vampires. Like I would do that too. It might be wrong, but I mean, you're going to be around forever. You might as well enjoy it. But I really think that she's more mad about Tyler and she's like, must be really nice just to snap your fingers and get whatever you want. Is that why you collect your little hybrids? A little servant army to bring you places and bring you things. And Klaus tells her she's making assumptions and she might be, but she might not be. And she's just like, then why do you need Tyler? Stop controlling him. Give him his life back. Please, just do it. And then he tells her to leave. He said it was a fun evening and then tells her to leave. But yeah, still tells her to leave. And I think she understands him too. And I think this moment shows us that she definitely does. She's like, I get it. Your father didn't love you, so you think nobody else will. And that's why you compel people or sire them or try to buy them off. But Klaus, that's not how it works. You don't connect to people because you don't even try to understand them. She takes the bracelet off and like throws it down and takes off. And Klaus looks a little upset. And this is where everything interesting starts to happen, you know, all the drama. And then they come back to Cole and Rebecca and he's like, there you are. I was waiting outside for you. Where's Matt? About that. I changed my mind. Don't Don't tell me you like this boy. What did he do? Show you 5 seconds of attention? Don't be so predictable, Rebecca. Everybody hates on Rebecca for loving. All this girl wants is to be loved. Just let her do it. She's like, you don't have to be so rude about it. Just leave him alone. And then she walks away. And then Damon finds Elena and he's like, did you get what you want? And she's like, actually, yes. And he's like, good, get in the car. Tell me on the way home we're leaving. And she's like, no, let go of me. I'm sorry that I had to cut you out of the plan, but you had to be cut. He's like, there shouldn't have even been a plan. You shouldn't even be here. She's like, I didn't even want to cut you out of the plan, but I had to go behind your back. If I didn't ask Stefan to help, you would have ruined everything. And he's just like, sorry for trying to keep you alive. And this is the second time that he's told that his feelings have gotten in the way. And he doesn't even like to feel his feelings, you know? He basically says he's sorry for trying to keep her alive, but Stefan doesn't give a crap anymore. And she's just like, are you really mad that I tried to include Stefan? He's like, no, I'm mad that I love you. And she's just like, yeah, maybe that's the problem. Damon is instantly hurt by that, especially that it came from her this time. And it was already said by his brother. She's like, no, that's not what I meant. And he kind of uses Stefan's words back to her. Like, I get it, Elena. I care too much. I'm a liability. How ironic is that? And then Klaroline comes in and she's like, have you seen Matt? And then Damon kind of walks upstairs and Cole is like, good evening. You're Rebecca's friend. We haven't met. And it's Matt. They shake hands and Cole is about to break it. And Damon's like, hey, that's the quarterback. We can't be ruining the quarterback's hand. And Damon rushes towards Cole and throws him off the balcony and then jumps down and snaps his neck where everybody can see. And Stefan walks out and he's like, well, all of them walk out. And he's like, Damon, are you crazy? And you can see Damon kind of coming back to reality a little bit. And he's like, yeah, maybe a little. And then he looks at Elena and he's like, far be it from me to cause a problem. And then he turns around and walks away. Then we see Klaroline calling Tyler saying that she misses him and wants him to come back soon. And all of a sudden there is just a drawing, something on her bed. And it is another present from Klaus. And she's like, just give up already. And I think Klaroline just assumes that it's another present, which it could have been. And it kind of is, but it was a drawing. And that's rather quick of him to draw that with it's the same night, bro. You really, okay, vampire speed in your pictures too, maybe? I don't know. I'm a little confused at how quickly the drawing was done, but whatever. He says, thank you for your honesty. I bet you very few people will tell him how it is and what he needs to hear, but she is definitely one of them, as well as Haley and Camille. And then we see Esther talking to Finn in the same room where the sage is burned and nobody can hear them. I really like that spell. I wish they used it more. Bonnie does try to do it in the next episode, but they're not really successful. However, I really wanted, I would have liked to see that be used more. That would have been cool. I feel like they don't do a lot of privacy spells. In a house full of vampires, though, definitely feels necessary. Also, I think she was speaking to Elijah first, and she's just like, no violence. That's all I asked for. Rebecca and Cole disgraced our family tonight. And Elijah's just like, it won't happen again, Mother. I'll deal with them. Thank you, Elijah. I just wish the others were more like you. Elijah leaves. Finn comes in. And that's when the sage is talked about, and they're still burning it. And this is where you find out that Finn is actually the one volunteering to end his life. Truly, I really think that Finn and Esther's relationship is super toxic. And she relied on him more like a partner than she did a child, and kind of made him play a partner role or an adult role as a child, and even now, obviously. But Finn does not like being a vampire. It feels awful to him. He hates everything about it. And then Esther and Finn complete the link together, doing a spell. Well, Esther does a spell. He's just in there. There's a tree branch. I like that kind of magic when you see all the names. I don't know. I just like it. But then she's like, the link is complete. You are one. So now anything that happens to one Mikaelson will happen to all of the Mikaelsons, including Klaus, even though he's a hybrid. Except we see that's not really true. So would this have even worked? I'm not really sure, because when Klaus is daggered, when Cole is daggered, Klaus knows something is wrong and he knows what it is, but he is not going down like the rest of them do. We see Rebecca go down, maybe Elijah, but Klaus doesn't go down. So I'm not really sure, would this have actually worked? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Let me know. But really, it's like, why didn't they just use the white oak steak? Why wasn't Esther using the white oak steak? I don't know. I'm confused. Because obviously that would have worked on Klaus. So Stefan and Elena walk inside of Elena's house, and Stefan is just like, oh, so Esther wants to kill her whole family, huh? How's that for Mother of the Year? And they have like this emotional scene, and Elena starts to discuss, well, not really like an emotional scene yet, but yeah, and Elena's feeling guilty, so she tells this to Stefan. She's like, and I got to look Elijah right in the eye and lie to him about it. And Stefan's like, well, good. I can't say I'll be sorry to see any of them go. And she's like, I just signed his death sentence, and he was in the same exact position, and he tried to find a way to save me. Like, it's not that simple for me. He's like, it is that simple. You didn't sign Elijah's. You signed Klaus's. The rest are just collateral damage. She's like, yeah, not that simple. He's like, Elena, that whole family has brought you nothing but darkness. She could say the same thing about you, sweetie pie. Stefan's just like, well, so where's Damon? I would think that he'd want to make sure you got home safely. And you can tell he's asking because there's a reason he's there making sure she got home safely. He wants to pretend that he doesn't care about her, but he cares about her. It is what it is. And he's asking because I think he's obviously jealous. So he's like, I think he'd want to make sure that you got home safely. And she's just like, I'll call him and let him know. And Stefan is low-key happy about this. Like, that she's not, like, you know, like, that was her response. Like, she doesn't care. She's like, whatever, cool. And Stefan's like, well, why did he attack Cole? Like, and she's like, well, he's self-destructive. I said something I didn't mean. And he's like, yeah, me too. But anyways, good night. And literally, as he's running out of, like, the house, she's like, Stefan, and, like, he had his chance right here, and he ruins it. He just, like, lets it go and ruins it. He could have just been like, yeah. Like, he could have just, like, been a man and owned his fucking feelings. You know, stop being nasty to her and pushing her away. But he didn't do the right choice. She's like, Stefan, did you really not feel anything? He's like, when? She's like, how do you do that? How do you act like you just don't care? Like, you don't feel anything about me? Like, because I can't do that. I feel everything. And he's like, Elena, just stop. Like, okay, no, Stefan, you stop. And again, this is him feeling guilty. He always does this. He feels guilty and he tries to be this better person, and he can't just admit when he's wrong. And that's really why the guilt just keeps piling up, I feel like. But yeah, whatever. And she's like grabbing his face and like almost about to make out with him. It feels like she's just like, I love you. She doesn't actually say I love you, I don't think, but she's just like, and he's like, just stop. And she's like, I'm not going to stop, Stefan, because I don't believe that you feel nothing. And he's just like, do you think that I meant to hurt you? Like, I didn't want to hurt you. I hate myself for what I did to you. And she's grabbing his face and just like holding his face. And he just like kind of takes her hands and pulls them down. And I hated it for them. Like, I do like Delena better, but maybe this is why. I don't know. Because like he had a shot and he blew it. He had many shots and he blew them. He's just like, I can't, because if I do, it's going to hurt too much. And I'm like, dude, come on. Like, you don't think this is hurting her right now? Look at her. She's upset. Look at her. Grow up. So Rebecca goes to Mystic Grill where Matt is sitting, and she's like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I just went to a dance, got my hand crushed, found out that I don't have health insurance, so I just needed a minute to myself. And Rebecca's like, well, can I buy you an apology drink? And he's just like, you can just leave me alone. And she's like, I'm sorry about Cole. He's a lunatic. And she's like, yeah, he's just like, yeah, Rebecca, you're fun and pretty and all, but just leave me alone. And I love what happens here next. And I love it for so many reasons, because it gets under some people's skin and it just makes things a little bit interesting, you know? Damon walks up and he's like, burn, rejected by the captain of the football team. Him and his little jokey jokes and his references, love them. And she's basically like, shut up, Damon. I couldn't kill him. My mom wouldn't let me. And he's like, don't let people tell you what to do. And she's just like, and he's like, besides, you know, you would have broken him in a second. And she's just like, are you suggesting I can't be gentle? And he's like, nah, you should just find somebody a little more durable. That's all. And they like take a shot together. And she's like, who would that be? And then they walk into the boarding house. Like, and they are ripping each other's clothes off, and it's hot, and they definitely hook up and have sex. And I was like extremely happy that that happened, especially because in the morning, Elena goes over while Rebecca is about to leave in the same clothes, and that's pretty freaking great because she's pissed. Elena is super jealous about it, and she has like no right to be jealous because she literally rejected him the night before, and she was literally just begging Stefan to, feel something 5 minutes before that, but she's jealous. And Rebecca doing this one act allows Elijah to use Elena and Rebecca to kind of get what he wants, even though it benefits Rebecca as well. But he feels guilty about that, and that kind of shows that he's honorable, even though I'm not sure. Elijah's honor is another question. He scares me more than Klaus does, honestly. Mostly because he's unpredictable when you think he's not. And I feel like this episode is really great because it just, like I said, it sets up a lot of different things. There's a lot of different relationships going on. There's a lot of different drama. There are things that we're tabling for a little bit, like Alaric's attacks and her father's attack, but they're still brought up in this episode. They still carry on into future episodes. The story is developing a little bit more and more. We see both Stelena and Delena and that whole love triangle. We see a lot of that. That continues for a couple more seasons, like 1.5 at least. And really, I don't think that Stefan ever gets over her, but that's also a separate topic. I really wanted Bonnie to be here. Like, I really wanted her to be here, and I'm really upset that she was not in this episode. And we really do see how strong the Mikaelsons are. Not only are they strong, but they're how much of an influence they have on this town already. And this was just one party, and they really do. A lot of people already knew they were the strongest and deadliest vampires, and they really don't care. Some of them care, but most of them don't care. And Esther is probably the worst of them all. And she's not even a vampire, so I'm not sure what her excuse is. She's just a wicked witch of the fucking West, I guess. But I like that this shows that the Mikaelsons can care, and that vampires can care. Even ones that don't want to, like Stefan and Damon and Klaus and Caroline. So we know that they can care. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I like it. I like that Rebecca cares about Matt, even though she also doesn't want to, or maybe she does. I actually think they have really cute moments as the show progresses. This will always be a staple, whether it influences the rest of the show or not, whether you believe that. This will always be a staple episode, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. I think this is a very meaningful episode, and I truly enjoyed it. Not just for Klaus and Caroline either, even though that's a big part for me, but I think there is so much more than just that going on. And I truly enjoyed it. I liked the different magic we got to see, like the privacy spell and the quarrels and her lying to her children to take them out. Well, thank you guys for listening. I think that wraps it up. I just wanted to share that episode because it really stands out to me, and I think that others feel the same way. It's definitely like I said again, a staple episode in the series and universe. Don't forget to follow. Have a great night or day. Bye.